Good evening and welcome to the May 1st, 2025 Park and Recreation Commission regular hybrid video meeting. The time is now 5 p.m. My name is Peter Struck, Park and Rec Commission Chair. Tonight, our Parks and Rec Commission meeting is in person at the Mercer Community and Events Center, and we are also using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. Public audience members may be watching the meeting in person at the Mercer Island Community and Events Center, by telephone or online. Welcome to all and thank you for joining us this evening. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones and will the city staff please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Markson.
Here.
Commissioner Bowen.
Here.
Commissioner Westberg.
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Here.
Vice Chair Burstein.
Here.
Chair Struck.
Here.
Thank you, Chair.
City staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the commission this evening?
We do not have any public appearances tonight, Chair.
Thank you. So with that, we will move to our first item on the agenda, which is the staff liaison report and planning schedule update. And for that, we welcome our recreation supervisor, Katie Herzog. Katie?
Thank you so much. I will share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so welcome to our May 1st Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We will start with some project updates. So on March 18th, City Council approved the scope of work and community engagement plan for the Dean's Children's Park site plan. Staff has initiated public engagement for that site plan. Input is currently being gathered through two options. First, there is an online survey that has been open for a couple of weeks and will close on May 12th, which is found on Let's Talk. And second, there will be an open house this Saturday from 10 to 12 at Island Park Elementary. All the feedback collected will inform the development of design concepts that will be presented to the community in July. And then concepts will be presented right back here to the PRC on September 4th. To participate in the survey and learn more, please visit mercerisland.gov/DCPG. All right, and work is continuing on the Roanoke Park Playground. They are building a new drainage system. They're preparing for new accessible play area surfacing, installing crushed rock subgrade, and removing old concrete footings. Posts for the new swings and spinners have been installed, which is a very exciting process. And the city stormwater team built the pipe connection from the play area drainage to the existing stormwater ditch along 70th Avenue Southeast. And permits have been issued for the First Hill Park Playground. Staff are finalizing the construction schedule with that project team, and you can find more information at mercerisland.gov/playground replacements. All right, the Luther Burbank Park sports courts. Those new pickleball courts have seen a lot of activity in the past couple of weeks with the spring weather. I'm sure if you visited today, you'll see a lot of players down there as well. In April, Field Turf came and they removed the construction fencing along the South Hill, and our park maintenance team has gone in there and started the landscape work. The court surfacing is on track to be installed in early June, of course, weather permitting, and that mural, The Summer in the Wetlands, will be restored at the end of the month. The courts will be fully closed during the court resurfacing and maybe partially or fully closed for the mural work. City staff will share the closure schedule at least 2 weeks ahead of time. And of course, you can visit mercerisland.gov/LBP courts for more information. When we do reopen, we'll update the rules and the court guidelines will be posted at the courts. Okay, a few save the dates for our upcoming events. Believe it or not, summer celebration is right around the corner. We've been busy with our planning of the parade, our live entertainment, art, food vendors, our nonprofit booths, and of course the fireworks show. We have a great list of sponsors already on board. Mercer Island Martial Arts, Mercer Island Community Fund, the Mercer Apartments, Windermere, Bell Harbor, and Puget Sound Energy. And we have finalized our Mostly Music in the Park schedule. We have a new presenting sponsor, which is Seattle Airstream Adventures. They will be on site at Mercerdale with an Airstream trailer each week for the community to explore. And we have a great lineup of sponsors for this as well. The Community Fund, King County for Culture, Covenant Shores, Myval, Mercer Island City Lifestyle, and the Crawl Space Gastropub. Tomorrow night marks one of our family movie nights. This is a free event and we are full with our registration. We'll be showing How to Train Your Dragon with about 150 registered for that. Our summer camps are online and registrations are looking very good this year. You can see all of our contracted vendors at mercerisland.gov/summercamps. We went to the MIPA circus last week and handed out a lot of flyers for our summer camps. So we're really looking forward to those. And then we started a new open art studio. We have 3 dates currently scheduled, last week being the first one. We had 18 people drop in from 9:30 to 11:30 for a free, just open art class. We have a facilitator, a great artist who is helping facilitate the drawing, but we had a lot of creativity in the room that day, and we look forward to 2 more of those coming up. All right, some good news. Bloodworks Northwest would like to thank all of the generous donors that came to our blood drive. We had 25 units collected, and all of those are going to support local patients in need. This is a partnership we will continue to do and host blood drives here at the community center. And a few park maintenance updates. We said thank you and goodbye to one of our team members, Tyler Shaw, who's pictured in the orange shirt up there. He is, unfortunately for us, moving to Spokane, but he and his family are expecting a baby in the next couple of months. So he moved on to Spokane. The Eagle Scouts completed a service project. They replaced 90 feet of fencing in Luther Burbank Park. So thank you so much for that. And a great sign of spring, the hanging flower baskets are installed. You can see them in Island Crest Park, Mercerdale, and Luther Burbank. Our park maintenance team has also been very busy with some turf damage rehab. The restoration efforts were very successful at South Mercer Playfields, and then they will continue the work throughout the other parks for the rest of the year. Integrated pest management, there was some crazy, what were they, grubs? Some beetles that really did some damage out there, but as you can see from the photos, it's looking great. And of course, you know, those fields have a lot of activity, so we're back in action there. All right, and a couple past things. Our Leap for Green Sustainability Fair was on April 5th. We had also a camp fair in conjunction with this. Great turnout, a lot of great sustainability vendors and workshops. We had entertainment and bubbles and some food trucks out front. So that was a great event that is now in the past. And a new spring break camp was held here at the community center through Petals Art Club. They ran 3 days out of spring break and had a wonderful turnout, and we look forward to welcoming them back for some summer camps. All right, just a reminder that our boards and commissions have recruitments underway. The deadline has been extended to May 9th. So if you or someone you know is interested in one of these positions, please visit mercerisland.gov/BC and you can find the application online. And a quick glimpse at our upcoming planning schedule. On June 5th, we will hold the chair and vice chair elections. The King County Library System will come and do their annual update. If you have any questions for King County Library System, please send them to Raven and Ryan by May 12th. And then you'll also be looking at the Dean's Children's Park Engagement Plan. July 3rd is a TBD on whether we will hold a meeting or not. Of course, there's no meeting in August, and you'll be back in September to look at the athletic field use and allocation policy, as well as your annual bylaws review. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions for Katie?
I do.
Okay, Ashley,
Yeah.
Commissioner
So I
Hay.
have one question about the pickleball courts. Actually, it's more about pickleball protocol. And I'm hoping that somebody in the know, I'm kind of looking at you, Paul, or anybody who wants to take the question. I assume they're getting a lot of use and they're very busy. Is there a sign up or, I mean, I'm totally new to this. Do I just show up with my paddle and jump in? Or is there a rotation? How does this work?
Yes, currently there is no sign up or structured play at the court. So it is a show up and play, hope there's court time and hope other players are respectful of, how much time they're using on the courts. But it is something we'll be looking at as far as the rules and guidelines to post at the courts. But as of right now, we're not looking to do a sign up or renting the courts at this time, but certainly something that we'll be keeping an eye on.
Great. Or is there any anticipated future kind of event, intro to pickleball and kind of showing off the new courts and giving people a chance to try it out and see how it works?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think something that we'll definitely look towards once it's all completed, once the construction is done. And once we can, kind of get our heads around how many people are using it. But I do think classes, perhaps camps in the future would be really great. And not just kid camps, maybe adult pickleball camps would be fun too. So we certainly have ideas around it and probably would look towards next year to do some of those things.
Great, thanks.
And if I can add, there is a online tool called playtimescheduler.com. Just uses an email to sign up to get onto the site. There are pickleball courts listed all over the region. In fact, all over the country and I think globally on that site. So you just focus in on Western Washington. Mercer Island is a nice green color. It's not a reservation system, but it's an indication of who will be out there. And in general, if you come in the morning or in the afternoon, there's generally people out there. And there is a stated rule that you play one game to 11, win by 2, and then you have to rotate off. And the Parks Department was nice enough to take a dugout helmet rack for baseball and hang it on the fence. So you can use those cubbies to stack paddles and know who's up next for the open court.
Now I'm even more intimidated.
Oh, no.
Serious stuff.
Come out with me.
Yeah,
It's easy.
please. Yeah, let's do it.
Katie, I actually had a question on the same topic of the pickleball courts, and Ashley kind of referred to it, but you said after the surface covering is completed and so forth in June, that you're going to update rules and regs, et cetera, et cetera. Are there major changes expected or not? Or you don't know?
I don't think at this time we're looking at any major changes, but to post, some guidelines I think would be great, just so everyone's on
Okay.
the same page as far as playing. And like Paul mentioned, there's, on our tennis courts, we have some pretty general rules and guidelines that we would probably want to mirror at the pickleball courts as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is to review and consider approving the minutes from March 6th, 2025 regular hybrid meeting and our April 9th, 2025 special hybrid meeting. Commissioners, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of those two meetings?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. May I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Hay. So there's a motion by Vice Chair Burstein and a second by Commissioner Hay. Commissioners, before we vote, do you have any questions or comments on the minutes as they were drafted? Okay, seeing none. I'll ask you to turn on your microphones again, and city staff, will you conduct the roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Westberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Markson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burstein,
Aye.
Chair Struck,
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair.
The motion passes and the minutes are approved. Our next item on the agenda is the Clark and Groveland Beach Parks Joint Park Infrastructure Plan Update. And for that, we will welcome Deputy Public Works Director Kelly Hildy.
Good evening. For the record, Kelly Hildy, Deputy Director of Public Works. Tonight, Sarah Bluvis, CIP Project Manager, will be providing an overview of the scope of work and summary of the Community Engagement Plan for the Clark and Groveland Beach Parks Joint Infrastructure Plan. That is a mouthful. Before I pass the mic to Sarah, I do want to take a quick moment to introduce a new member of our Public Works team. Shelby Peralt, and Shelby, you can turn on your screen. Shelby is our Capital Parks Manager who joined the city back in February. Shelby leads the Parks Capital team in implementing the Parks Capital program. So she is here supporting Sarah and Paul and Connor, who are our Parks Capital Improvement team. So with that, Sarah, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Good evening, Parks and Rec Commission. It's good to see you all. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so like Kelly said, tonight we're going to provide an overview of the Clark and Groveland Beach Parks Joint Infrastructure Plan. We will need to come up with a different name for that plan eventually. So here's our agenda. I'll provide a project overview. I think you all know we've been working on this project in the background for a couple of years now, so refresher is probably in order. I'll walk through the preliminary site assessments that have been conducted since we started working on this project in 2023 for each park. I'll talk a bit about the background survey we conducted last fall on community uses, and then I'll talk about next steps for this planning effort. I will pause throughout the presentation to answer questions, so I'll keep an eye on hands raised and things like that, and also look to you, Chair, for your help in calling anybody out. So let's start. Clark Beach Park and Groveland Beach Park are two of our three public waterfronts here on Mercer Island, the third major public waterfront being Luther Burbank Park. Both these parks were originally developed in the 1960s and 1970s. I think the Groveland improvements were first installed in 1967 and at Clark in 1971. So both of these parks have aging infrastructure, especially their overwater features such as docks and swimming enclosures, as well as other upland infrastructure like their restrooms. So back in 2022, following the adoption of the PROS plan, which really emphasized beach access, waterfront improvements as some of the priorities over the next several decades for our park system, City Council approved a joint planning effort to prioritize the capital projects for both of these parks. In particular to, I think, set us up for success to be able to navigate the pretty strict permitting requirement we're in for shoreline projects. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as part of this presentation. So in 2023, we engaged the Berger Partnership, who has assisted the city with other parks projects in the past. They're currently working on a few projects for us right now, and we went off and running. So I put this at the top. We'll go more into it, but on March 18th, the City Council approved the staff's recommendation to develop a joint park infrastructure plan as opposed to a master plan. So back in 2022, 2023, we were working on the Clark and Groveland joint master plan based on what we've learned through the analysis of the existing conditions that we've been doing over the past couple of years. We staff made the recommendation to shift to an infrastructure plan that will prioritize the repair and replacement of those overwater structures, really look at shoreline erosion control and stabilization, and also explore accessibility improvements to as much as they're feasible. So the other amenities, the ones like restrooms, wayfinding, signage, parking, existing recreational offerings like the volleyball court down at Groveland, we will address those as the resources allow, but the primary focus for the infrastructure plan at this stage is really the overwater structures, the beachfront and the accessibility. Here's just a look at kind of the difference from our perspective of a park master plan and a park infrastructure plan. So a park master plan is really that big long-term vision, looking at 20 or more years in the future, whereas an infrastructure plan is really meant to be near term. So we'll be looking at improvements and enhancements that need to be implemented over the next 10 to 12 years. Really looking at kind of what are those specific park renovations and repairs that need to be immediately implemented, as opposed to kind of that high level framework and really visionary component that a master plan provides. So similar to that, like the focus of community input, often with a park master plan, we are thinking more visionary, what should the park be in the future? But for this infrastructure plan, we're really looking at and asking questions around what does the park need right now? The resulting deliverables for our park infrastructure plan will be schematic design and cost estimates that will allow us to initiate design development. So move into that 30, 60, 90% design, as well as help us be able to have early coordination with permitting agencies and apply for grant funding through the state and other resources. So one of the big reasons we
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a question from Commissioner.
Okay, great.
So Sarah, can you just briefly describe what the rationale was for switching from a master planning approach to the facility focused approach? Was it the condition, the current condition of the overwater facilities that kind of drove that choice?
So I think yes, and I think the information that's on this slide here is really kind of how we're framing that, how that decision was arrived at. So, you know, I'll talk tonight about the conditions. I'll go through each of the assessments that we conducted so you can get a little more information about what has been observed and documented. So really, you know, thinking about the immediate repair needs for those, especially overwater structures. Those structures have a pretty strict regulatory environment. We've seen this with the Luther Burbank Park waterfront project. Waterfront projects take multi-years to permit, and so we really need to focus on those big pieces first. Waterfront infrastructure is also very expensive, so we need to be mindful and reinvesting responsibly and within the limited resources that we have. That first one, then, balancing recreational offerings and beach uses. This is really looking at kind of our waterfront system as a whole. You know, we have 3 primary public waterfronts on the island. We're doing a significant renovation at Luther Burbank Park in this biennium. So that really prompted the need to kind of look at how we diversify offerings across each park potentially, rather than, you know, every park having all things, all uses. Because of the state or condition of some of these features on the waterfronts at Clark and Groveland, does it make sense to consider either repairing, replacing, or removing something, just given the strict regulatory environment and what already exists or will exist at other waterfront parks? Does that help a bit, Commissioner Westberg? I'll keep talking about the assessments too, and I think that'll provide.
No, that helps. That kind of provides a context for
Okay.
that decision. Thanks.
Okay, great. And the picture on this slide, just so you know, is the beautiful enclosed swim area at Clark Beach that I think has seen better days. So that's definitely an element as an overwater structure that will be addressed as part of this project. So speaking of the permitting requirements, this is just kind of a high-level permit matrix that we're looking at so far. A lot of these permits are also required for the Luther Burbank waterfront project. So we're looking at least 3 agencies, 2 state agencies, 1 federal, of course, the city of Mercer Island as a permitting agency, and then consultation with the tribes. Our consultant team put together this initial permit matrix based on what they saw out at each of the parks as part of their critical areas reconnaissance and geotechnical review. So this is just a first pass. It will likely evolve and will be updated as part of the planning process. So we'll have a better idea at the end of this planning effort what really those specific permits are that we need to pursue, and that will allow us to actually connect with those agencies early and coordinate with them ahead of the design efforts. Okay, so as I mentioned, we did some significant analysis of existing conditions at both parks leading up to the City Council approving the scope of work in March. We started from August of 2023 to December of 2024. We looked at topographic and bathymetric conditions. So the topographic is the landward survey, bathymetric is the water survey. We did surveys of basically the lake bottom around the near shore, and infrastructure at both sites, delineated the ordinary high water mark, which is very important for our design efforts. We also did condition assessments of all of the in-water structures. That was a big piece of this effort, and a lot of, like Commissioner Westberg kind of pointed out, a lot of what's driving the approach for planning now. I also mentioned we did critical area reconnaissance and geotechnical data review to look at, are there wetlands, water courses, what are soil conditions, are there any mapped hazards on the site, and that'll inform any future study we may have to do once we get into the design process as well. And then we also did an accessibility audit of both restroom facilities, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I'll jump straight into the site assessments. I'll talk about Clark Beach first, then I'll go into Groveland. I'll wrap up with the restroom facilities because the conditions observed at both parks are generally the same. So for in-water conditions at Clark Beach, we have two key areas where we have in-water structures. The enclosed swim area includes a concrete stairs, a concrete and timber pier, and then that sheet pile wall that actually creates the enclosed swimming area. In the open swimming area, there's mooring piles for a buoy line, a timber pier, and concrete stairs. And all of the structures, the overwater structures at Clark Beach, have reached the end of their useful life. So I think in terms of the spectrum of conditions, KPFF, our subconsultant who worked on this project, really looked at poor, fair, and good condition. And overall, Clark really fared in the poorer side. So it's certainly one of the higher priority elements of this project is addressing the features at Clark. Do you have a question, Commissioner Cohen?
Yes. What's a sheet pile wall?
I'll go back and show you, and I'll show so the sheet pile wall is this metal wall that you can see just past the buoy line. And these piles were driven into, so right here in the enclosed swim area at Clark Beach, there is a significant drop off right beyond this wall. So in order to create a safe enclosed swim area back in the 60s and 70s when this park was developed, this sheet pile wall, which is made out of metal, basically sheeting and piles, it's driven into the lake bottom and it stops, and then fill was added in eventually to create the swimming area. So it was meant initially to sort of create that enclosed swimming area, but it is deteriorating and causing a lot of erosion. So I'll show some photos of that as well, but it definitely needs to be addressed.
Yes, they didn't focus a lot on aesthetics back then. And actually, I always thought, just guessing, I always thought that was a breakwater, or maybe there had been a pier on it at some point, but your explanation suggests otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And we can actually go, so here you can see some more photos. So here, this photo up in the corner, this is a piece of the one side of the sheet pile wall. And here you can see it's actually capped with like a timber curb. I think the entire perimeter at one point was capped with this, but has since been I think probably lost due to wave action. You can see this is part of the sheet pile wall, the middle photo. It's dealing with some corrosion, pretty significant corrosion to the metal. Also, the pier over in the enclosed swim area has a lot of sinkholes and depressions that have formed in the asphalt. And that is all because the sheet pile wall effectively is not functioning in the way that it's supposed to. So wave action is coming in, and then it's washing material back out, and that's creating these kind of sinkhole conditions underneath the piers that is then creating those depressions in the asphalt. There's also, wood decking that's experiencing biological decay, as well as some of the piles that support the piers out at Clark too. So for geotechnical and critical areas review out at Clark, the primary concerns include surficial soil sediment across the slope. So on the upland portion, basically from the parking lot down to the beachfront, we're seeing a lot of soil settlement in this photo in the top left. You can see where the asphalt was recently repaired because of soil creep that probably caused asphalt cracking. So that's something that we'll have to routinely address. Asphalt repairs unless we can deal with the erosion. And same thing with waterfront erosion. It's causing asphalt settling. I just talked a little bit about how the sheet pile wall plays into that, as well as sinkholes. So this kind of bottom photo shows a sinkhole that was in the stairs at the open swim area when this study was conducted. And that again was due to erosion wave action that was coming in underneath the stairs and then washing out the fill material. Our parks team was actually able to repair that sinkhole in the concrete stairs after this report was conducted. So that condition has been at least temporarily repaired now, but I think a long-term fix is needed. We also observed no wetlands and no non-piped water courses at the site, and the site is mapped as a hazardous area, so that'll require additional geotechnical study in the future. Moving on to Groveland. So there's a few main structures, overwater structures at Groveland, a timber pier and bulkhead, concrete bulkhead, and a camel log wave attenuator. So the overall condition of the structures at Groveland is fair. That's probably in part because we have conducted repairs at Groveland Park more recently than we have at Clark. I believe the pier and some other improvements were completed in 2018 or 2019. So still relatively new, and the conditions of those repairs are holding up. But of course, degradation is still evident, and we should be monitoring and managing these structures in order to preserve them. So over at the pier, we're seeing localized damage on the timber piles and deterioration on the concrete decking. The timber bulkhead has heavy degradation in the curbing and exposed fill behind the wall. And then the concrete bulkhead is also showing some cracking, spalling, and undermining, which all kind of deteriorates the structural integrity of concrete. So here are a few photos. In the center, top center photo, you can see some cracking and other degradation on the concrete decking underneath the concrete decking of the pier. You can see some piles that have some pretty significant fungal decay, and then some cracking in concrete bulkhead over where that swim ladder is, as well as some deteriorating conditions of the timber bulkhead that leads out to the pier. But overall in better condition than what has been observed at Clark. For geotech and critical areas at Groveland, surficial soil creep is also an issue there. You know, both parks are at the bottom of very steep slopes, so I guess this shouldn't be surprising. And that first picture on the left, you can see some slope creep along the western edge of the playground. So our team has mitigated that by kind of building up the wood chips of the playground from time to time, but I think a permanent fix is needed. There's also beach area settlement that causes in particular a stormwater pipe that outfalls in the beach area to rupture occasionally. So you can kind of see it in the photo on the right. It's a little buried, but that pipe had ruptured a couple of times, and we did receive some recommendations for potentially intermediate or intermediary kind of repairs in order to keep it from rupturing in the future. But the erosion issue is still a long-term issue that needs to be fixed. Like at Clark, there's no wetlands or non-piped water courses, and Groveland is also mapped as a hazardous area, so we'll have to do additional geotech study out there. And then, like I said, we did an accessibility audit at both restroom facilities. So both restrooms are pretty similar in construction. They were built, I think, at the same time in the 60s and 70s. They each had a new roof put on, I think, within the last 10 or 15 years. And truly, they are non-compliant with ADA guidelines in a lot of ways. So this includes insufficient maneuvering and turning space, no accessible water closet compartments, inaccessible reach heights in water fountains, incorrect tactile signage placement, and then inadequate accessible routes to the buildings. So, some of these things can be modified or addressed with just renovations to the building, but some larger things may need to be addressed in the future with new facilities or at least new access to the facilities. So I will pause there and see if there's any more questions about those assessments before I get into the survey, some of the survey data we collected.
Thank you, Sarah. Vice Chair Bursey.
Sarah, you might cover this later, but is there a timeline for these projects?
There is a timeline for the planning effort that I'll chat about at the end of all of this.
And as a follow-up, I remember talking about this before, and if I remember, if either of the docks completely fail, they won't be able to be replaced. Is that true?
That is, I think, fundamentally correct. So the idea is that if an in-water structure fails or needs to be removed, it will be incredibly difficult for the city to replace a feature that has already been removed. So that's part of the reason as well for focusing on the in-water structures, because they have a pretty significant timeline associated with them, just in the sense that if we want to maintain these structures or repair them, we need to do it while we effectively still have them in the water.
Sarah, this is Chair Struck. So going back to the concept of master plan versus infrastructure plan, and as you've gone through the slides and so forth, my kind of takeaway is the infrastructure plan is really just to take the existing park amenities, whatever those may be, and where necessary, update them, upgrade them. There may be some modifications, like you mentioned, about balancing the three beach areas and so forth. But essentially, from a community mayor's perspective, they're going to see nicer facilities, but it's not going to really change the overall ambiance and scope of what the park is today. Is that correct?
That's correct. The one maybe caveat to that is at Clark Beach. Clark Beach is a good candidate. It's part of the RIA 8 program, which is a shoreline management program that I believe the state runs. And it's been identified for natural erosion stabilization, natural shoreline rehabilitation, because it's in, I believe, the Cedar River watershed. So in that area, we will likely consider the functionality of that enclosed swim area. Do people use that enclosed swim area for open water swimming, or are they going to other parks? And is that an area where we could potentially, repurpose some of the enclosed swim area for natural beach and new habitat, that sort of thing? So that's really the only recreational use that we've discussed so far, but that that's all tied to kind of what the limitations of the site are and what the uses are currently.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I guess my comment back would be is if you, the city decides that they maybe do need to do some modifications in terms of shoreline and so forth, or I'm modifying significantly kind of the current process that in the community engagement process, I would make sure that, you know, you kind of alert people and say, what do you think?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
All right, seeing no other questions, we can move on.
Okay. So we have collected some input from the community already to inform this project, and that also helped us arrive at kind of the infrastructure plan approach as opposed to a bigger master plan. The last fall, from September 27th to October 31st, we ran a digital survey really asking how the community uses these parks now. So not really focused on what would you like to see more of, but really, how are the parks working right now? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your concerns? We received 229 total responses, and we were able to promote the survey via signage and posters on site and at the community center through the MI Weekly and social media. We also did a postcard mailer to the neighbors of each park to ensure that they got information about the project, and that was about 400 households. And then we also got some coverage in the Mercer Island Reporter on October 4th. So the key takeaways from the survey, access. Most people reach the parks by car, but many also walk or bike to the parks. Beach access ranked highest for both parks as their #1 reason for visiting. At Clark, strolling and walking ranked second and swimming third. And at Groveland, swimming ranked second and strolling and walking ranked third. And then picnicking ranked as fourth for both parks. Some of the biggest concerns were accessibility. So we know really steep trails from the parking lot down to the beaches, beach and water access and wayfinding, park maintenance. Community members talked to us about worn amenities, litter, pet droppings, overgrown planting that they've seen at the parks. In terms of amenities, they talked about insufficient picnic areas, wanting more barbecues and shade, trash bins and play features. And then for safety, which was another biggest concern, they talked about swim conditions, water quality, visitor behavior, and off-leash dogs. So some other input for Clark. Here's kind of a look at what the primary concerns are. No order in this number. The numbers coordinate with they're the key for the map on the right. But again, steep park entrance trail, looking at parking lot function and use. Clark has a really big parking lot. We see a lot of off-leash dogs at Clark as well. General park sanitation, the dock being in poor condition, as well as the swimming area, and then restroom maintenance and availability. Similarly at Groveland, steep park entrance trail, concerns about vandalism and underage alcohol use, landscape maintenance, general park sanitation, again, those docks and swimming area conditions, and restroom maintenance. So, any questions on that before I kind of wrap up? I have a couple more slides.
Commissioner Westberg?
This is just a quick question. A number of years ago, Groveland used to be enormously popular for fishing, particularly on weekends. There were large family groups that were assembling there, and they lined the dock and fished for perch. And I'm wondering, has that use largely been eliminated by the wave attenuators? Is that still something to consider? I have to confess, I haven't been down there in the summer for the past few years to kind of observe what was going on, but fishing was a big deal.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll have to go back and look more at the survey data we collected last fall to see if fishing or other kind of active water uses outside of swimming and boating came up, but I will definitely look into that and make sure it's
Okay, I
reflected
think
as
a lot of that
necessary.
use was by off-island visitors, but that's just anecdotal. I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
Commissioner Hay?
Yeah, so my question is in regards to the survey feedback regarding insufficient picnic area. And I'm wondering if a picnic structure or picnic tables possibly that could be added to the rental facilities, if that may be part of this infrastructure improvement.
Do you mean like building a new picnic shelter or something like that?
Yes, potentially something that could be added to the facility rental list.
Mhm. It's possible. I think that we, as through this process, kind of the next step of the planning effort, will definitely dig a little bit deeper into elements like that. I don't think that the the result of this planning effort will not be like a fully designed um, park improvements plan in the sense that like we have all of the drawings and everything designed for a picnic shelter. But if it looks, if we hear from the community and it fits within the scope of the project and the limitations of the site to potentially put a structure in or something like that, that's definitely something that would be considered.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Pardon? Okay. Don, Commissioner Cohen?
Yes, this is in reply to Rory's question. The 95% of the fishing was eliminated by those wave attenuators because I've been fishing down there for a lot of years and not very much since those were put in. When you go down there, I don't know about during the summer because I don't go down there because there's a lot of people using it for other things. But when I go down there in the winter and kind of lousy weather, once in a while you'll see one person out at the end there, but you can't fish. There's nowhere you can cast without getting your line messed up unless you cast into the swimming area. And you probably you may want to just you don't want to encourage that anyway, probably because of hooks. But so I raised this issue several years ago about whether there were any alternatives to those wave attenuators for the future, and there at that point we didn't have a discussion of that, but I think that's the anecdotal answer to Commissioner Westberg's question about that. There isn't a lot of fishing down there.
Thank you. Any other? All right, I think we're ready to move on, Sarah.
Okay, just a couple more slides. So again, I'm kind of wrapping up based on, everything we've seen through the existing conditions, some of the information that we got via the survey last fall. Our top priorities for this infrastructure plan are really the dock and swimming area safety and improvements, looking at shoreline erosion control and stabilization, as well as beachfront improvements and accessibility improvements where feasible. Of course, as the resources allow, we also will look at those other amenities that have come up, things like wayfinding and signage, gathering spaces such as picnicking and shade opportunities, the existing recreational opportunities, as well as parking. So here's a look at our approved community engagement plan for this project. So we will be doing up to 2 more online surveys. We plan to have an open house that'll either be an in-person or virtual. We're not sure yet. And there we'll really share project information and get input to inform the design alternatives. Staff will be back to the PRC twice throughout this planning process to get your input on the design alternatives and prepare a final recommendation for the preferred infrastructure plan. We'll also be providing updates in between those check-ins via the department report. Let's Talk is live and continues to be the location for project info, all information about dates. The surveys will be run through Let's Talk, and then we'll also likely take advantage of some of the other engagement tools that Let's Talk has to offer, to collect information as the design team continues to work on developing the plan, and we might need more information about one small piece. We can do quick polls or other kind of use really active engagement tools such as that on Let's Talk. And then additionally, in terms of other opportunities, so I mentioned earlier that we had sent a postcard out to the park neighbors, knowing that both of these parks are really embedded in the neighborhoods that they're in currently. And so we want to make sure that those neighbors, as well as everyone else in the community, has ample opportunity to participate. We'll also be sharing project information out through our different community groups, typically that we connect with, people like the school district and all of that, and really to promote our community engagement opportunities and get additional feedback on the plan. And then here's our high-level project schedule. So we are still the pre-design, pre-engagement stage. We are wrapping up the contracting with Berger, who will be working with us to develop the plan, looking at starting that process in the next month. It'll run through the summer and into the fall. And then we're hoping for plan review and adoption to be completed by the second quarter of next year. And there's our project website, www.mercerisland.gov/CGIP. That goes directly to the Let's Talk site, which is live now. And all of our upcoming engagement opportunities will be shared there once they are scheduled and available. I will stop sharing my screen and happy to answer any other questions.
Commissioners, last chance to. Commissioner Hay.
You have a quick question about the timeline. We see, quarter 2 to 4, it's kind of what we're moving into. And I know there's not specific dates on there, but will some of these community surveys and potentially a meeting happen throughout the summer when our parks are really heavily used, and some kind of signage up, potentially collecting a second survey during that time when there's a lot of people in our parks?
Yes, our intention is to have community engagement going on throughout the design development stage. So that'll definitely include this summer when the parks are active. And then we may do kind of a follow-up, one of those engagement pieces back in the fall after everyone's back for school, back from summer break. So we can kind of try to get everyone as much as possible, knowing that our community is really active in the summer and may not be here for every opportunity, but we will be out there as much as possible to get their input.
That's great. I really appreciate the timing on that. And one follow-up question, once the specific dates are set for the public meetings, will another mailer go out to the families that live in the vicinity of the parks so that they can put that on their calendar if they wish to do so?
Yes, the intention is to be able to have a listing of when most, if not all, of those engagement opportunities will happen. And yes, we will send a postcard mailer out to those neighbors again.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner Cohen.
Yes, Sarah, when the Berger people are working on design proposals for Clark Beach, I assume that they will at least keep in mind the experience at Groveland with the breakwaters there, and it may be impossible to accommodate both uses. But I know there's another fishing pier at Clark, a small fishing pier. But if there's any way that that fishing can be available to the off the south, to the south, off of whatever is enclosing that swimming area at Clark, and still not compromise whatever breakwater effect, that would be a good additional use of that area that wouldn't negatively impact people, other than maybe by cost.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Markson.
Maybe I'll just add on to what Commissioner Cohen just said. And when I was reading the materials, maybe I interpreted this, hopefully I interpreted it correctly, that because we're doing 2 parks and they have slightly different uses by the community and features available, like similar to what Commissioner Cohen's saying, maybe Clark Beach could have some amenities that aren't available at Groveland, or have a different you know, focus on a different type of user as you go through this experience. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Next on the agenda is the 2024 Recreation Division Annual Report. And for that, we welcome back our Recreation Supervisor, Katie Herzog.
Thank you so much. I am joined tonight by Jeremy Jasmine, our Recreation Coordinator, and we will be presenting the 2024 Annual Report. All right, so tonight we will take a look at who is the Recreation Division. We'll look at what we did for 2024 and then give a few 2025 updates. All right, so who are we? We are a team of 18 full-time and part-time staff. We strive to deliver life-improving recreation services. We focus on creating access and opportunities for all community members. We connect community members and neighborhoods together. We support community organizations, and we're consistently seeking improvement. Our team may fluctuate in size based on need, and we do that by using seasonal and part-time staff. So this is the framework that we started the year with. As noted in the report, some positions were reassigned to support our emergent needs. An updated chart will be provided when we do our 2025 annual report, as we are still working through our current vacancy of the recreation facility supervisor. So we'll start by diving into the administration function. And from our long list here, I will just pull out a few to highlight. In 2024, the development of the 2025 and 2026 budget and work plan was completed. It was quite the undertaking. We developed and implemented online bookings for our athletic fields. We developed and implemented temporary rules for the Luther Burbank pickleball courts. And we expanded the use of our Civic Optimized Forms tool, which allows us to more efficiently process sponsorship requests and program applications. And kind of our big achievement was we did achieve 70% overall cost recovery, which we feel very happy about. So the administration function area also provides staff support, as you know, to the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Arts Council. So the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended the recreation sponsorship policy to City Council. You recommended the open space zone to the Planning Commission, and you completed the park tour and began development of the park zone. The Arts Council recommended appropriation from the 1% for Arts in Public Places Fund, which supported restoration of Totem and the Luther Burbank Park mosaic murals. They also began their work on the Art in Public Places 6-year work plan and endorsed the 25-26 Arts and Culture work plan. And I'll hand it to Jeremy.
Thanks, Katie. All right, Community Center. The Mercer Island Community and Event Center operates under the leadership of the Recreation Facility Supervisor. It oversees a wide range of services, including the gym, meeting room rentals, and gym, community center facility access, drop-in programming, and other division-wide customer service, and also the coordination of the Mercer Island Art Gallery. Here's some main topics that we went over and what we did. We looked at expanded after hours and holiday access. We further implemented non-traditional work schedules to accommodate that additional access to the facility. Collaborated with multiple partners to provide access to the facility, including the Mercer Island Sister City Association, MIPA, and the Mercer Island Chinese Association, just to name a few. We maintain a relationship with the Mercer Island School District's Pathways program. We also collaborate with multiple city departments for community engagement and emergency support. We also coordinated community access during the bomb cyclone last, November. The community center, we saw 1,874 bookings, and that totaled just under 7,500 total hours. That was an increase of 89 bookings and an increase of just under 1,500 hours. We also saw an increase of drop-in participants for our drop-in sports, and also a huge increase in our fitness room use. City business hours, a little bit lowered, but this does not include the use of the Slater room. So that was about 1,900 hours. And then we also offer 10 unique drop-in activities that includes pickleball, volleyball, basketball, indoor playground for little kids and toddlers, table tennis, open gym basketball, senior walking, badminton, youth basketball, and youth volleyball time. Here's some gym space usage. A lot of in-house programming that we offer for drop-in sports. As you can see, about 9% total for private rentals.
Okay, and then we switched back over to the program and events side of things, which is a recreation supervisor, coordinator, and specialist. And just to note, this team of three, and then the team of the the Mercer Island Community and Events Center are interchangeable in a lot of ways. So just because we are running events and doing programs, that staff is also helping the community center side. And we also utilize that staff for our events and programs. All right, so this is a snapshot of our events and programs. So you'll see the city coordinated events are those that we solely plan for year round. Those include your Mostly Music in the Park, Summer Celebration, the tree lighting. We introduced the Senior Resource Fair, which was new last year, Leap for Green, Juneteenth, and Pride, to name a few. And then we did a pretty good list of partnered events where we worked with another organization to put on more events for the community, such as the holiday market, the menorah lighting in Mercerdale Park, and Lunar New Year with the Chinese Association. Through the sponsorship policy under special events, we were able to sponsor the high school parade. Youth Theater Northwest had a family fun fest, and Art Uncorked that happens every year, as well as a high school 5K. And then some of our programs that we are coordinating, we have a musical fitness class for seniors, Music Together, which is a parent and child music class. Nancy Stewart has done family sing-alongs, Osher Lifelong Learning, art classes. Of course, the P-Patch is up and running, and our summer camps. Then our outdoor facility rentals, we did 102 picnic rentals, which is less than 2023, but we account for that because we did close some areas in Luther Burbank Park for the Luther construction, and the Aubrey Davis Park was closed for a couple week period for some trail work that happened there. Then our athletic field rentals, we saw 70 organizations or individuals that booked in 2024, which was an 18% increase in hours and a 16% increase in bookings from the past year. We've also permitted 36 private events in our park space and 2 First Amendment events. And then, of course, those 12 permanent events through our sponsorship program that were on the previous slide. So 2024 was very busy. We feel very good about it and successful, and just want to give a quick 2025 preview. I can't believe it's May already today, but we are really just going quick through the year already. So to highlight a few things that have already happened this year, as you know, the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended the park zone to the Planning Commission. The 20th anniversary of this building opening will happen this year, which of course comes with a few infrastructure needs that we're dealing with. The community center rentals are tracking and on pace with our 2024 numbers. Our athletic facility rentals are tracking and actually expected to exceed 2024 numbers. We received a grant from King County for Culture for $44,000, which will support our community events. That is a $33,000 increase from the past years. The fun thing about this grant is it's for 3 years. So for 25, 26, and 27, we will get $44,000 each year. The community fund generously gave us a $20,000 grant, which will also support community events. And we're very proud of our P-Patch program. It has expanded to 64 participants with increased consistency and active, staff management. The rules are in place and people are following those. So we are really looking forward to the upcoming summer and everything else that 25 has in store. But happy to provide you what 2024 we did. We kind of blew right past 24 and just started 25, it feels like. But I'll stop sharing and we'll take any questions.
Commissioner Westberg?
I just had a quick clarifying question. Is the For Culture grant, are there sideboards on that? Is that for cultural programming?
Yeah, so it's for our community events and anything that has an arts and culture relation to it. So we're able to use that for mostly music, summer celebration, for entertainment purposes. We can use it for Juneteenth and Pride in the Park. So we really focus our application towards those community events.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes, Katie, there was a reference in one of the slides to First Amendment events or something. What were those?
Yeah, so at times we'll get rallies that want to occur in park space. One in particular, they requested to meet on the lid and then they walk across Aubrey Davis Park and then walk across the bridge and back. Those types of events are First Amendment rights, and we're happy when people alert us to those so we can actually reserve park space. So we did do 2 of those in 24. I think we've done 2 in 25 already. So those First Amendment events where they can use city space to hold a rally or a gathering.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hay?
I have a question about the last item on the preview for 2025, and it was something to the effect of collaborating with emergency services for the impacts of the 2025-2026 World Cup. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have an emergency manager for the city, and thankfully she is meeting with people throughout the region that are planning the World Cup activities and really getting a good outlook of what that could mean for Mercer Island, which sits on a major roadway that people will be traveling to and from Seattle for games and events that Seattle is going to host. So we are looking towards 2026 summer where those World Cup games will happen. And what does that mean for, if light rail will be open by then, right? But what does that mean for our parking in town center, for I-90 and access to and from Mercer Island? And also, if we have, events planned around those dates, we may need to look at other dates to move those. So we, with the emergency manager, she's created kind of a work group to learn more about what all of these events that will happen in Seattle and then how it will impact us and how we can plan a year ahead for those.
Yeah, thanks for thinking ahead. And yes, let's all remain hopeful for the transit.
Yes, we're hearing a lot of people will be coming to those games. And if you're not going to a game, a lot of people will be at like the fanfare events. And so we hope that we can prepare as much as possible.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner Markson?
I had a quick question on the read aheads in the revenue and expenditure table. So are the grants and the revenue the one that you're referring to, the grant row? It says like it's 40,000 in 2024 budget? Or is that a different?
Yeah, so the 44 that we mentioned in the slide, that is for 2025.
Right.
In the 2024 budget, those are grants that we received. So last year, for example, For Culture did grant us $11,000. And we did receive grants from the community fund last year as well. So yes, that would be reflected in the grants and donations line item.
Okay,
just-
because this grants, yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
just, so we received them the beginning of January, so it wouldn't reflected in last year's budget line.
I see.
So that's what
Okay.
explained.
Okay,
It
that
just
makes
came a
sense.
little late than we were hoping for.
And so then the donations and miscellaneous revenues is includes grants or that?
Nope, that's community members or some off-island residents that had donated towards our park asset program. So public benches are the big donor.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of benches.
Yes.
Is that really, that's all benches?
I think the majority of that money was benches. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. $35,000.
Because that just came back. The bench program came back, kind of online for us in 2023. And so there was a period of time through COVID that we were not accepting those types of donations. So, I think we had almost a backlog of people that wanted benches, and then we were able to, fulfill those in 23 and 24 to bring them back up again. If that
Maybe I can
helps.
ask one follow-on question to that. Well, actually, I have two more questions. And I should know this because I think we talked about where benches get placed, the policy. But I mean, obviously, there's a overall limit in how many benches we can put in the parks. So, where are we in that limit?
Yeah, so the park maintenance team kind of helps with inventory on that end. So usually when a request comes in, we have an online form and they can put suggestions or recommendations, like they're looking at Luther Burbank Park. And then Parks Maintenance will reach out and say, okay, we got a spot at Luther Burbank, wherever. And then they'll provide me a spot and then I reach back out to that donor.
Okay.
So
Great.
Yeah.
And then I think you might have said this, but I probably missed it. In terms of the rentals of this facility, I mean, it looks like you guys had an amazing year. How, like, close to capacity are you in the use of the space?
Most of our meeting rooms and Mercer room ranges about 30 to 40% used. So, but the amount of hours, still busy enough for us staff.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And that's, one of the reasons in the community center section that we mentioned, like untraditional work hours, we've we're not open on Sundays, but we have staff here almost every Sunday because of rentals, which then, if we have one rental, then we can probably do a gym rental as well. So Sundays are one of our major days now, even though we really technically, we're not open for business.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's appreciated, so thank you.
Yeah, it's going great.
Vice Chair Bursey.
So something that happened last month was got notice that the facility was at capacity and you were canceling drop-in activities. Is that going to become, is the priority more on those rentals sacrificing the drop-in, or are you trying to get an equilibrium between the two so people that want to come in can still come in but get as much revenue as possible from the facility?
Where's Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's our balancing act of certainly if our Mercer room is available and our meeting rooms are available and someone wants to come and rent them, we want to provide that space for rentals, which of course does equal revenue. What happened is, we'll have a couple really busy days and realize that the parking lot is at capacity more so than the building. And so drop-ins have been canceled for, big facility rentals because we know those drop-in activities would come and not have a place to park, and we don't want that either. So, but that is the balance, right? We definitely want to have drop-in programs and programs in general. And we're balancing that with the revenue. we are doing really well with our revenue projections. And so that can kind of, give us a little room to back off from only seeking revenue and looking towards more programming and certainly keeping drop-in sports scheduled, when we have them scheduled.
So the only request I would have is when you're doing a large rental, to communicate to that sponsor to encourage them not to have single-use vehicles coming
Mhm.
in, carpool as much as possible, and someday in the future, take light rail.
Yes, yes.
One day,
No, those are great suggestions.
yeah.
Katie, the question I have is, if you look at an annual report, there's a couple of different perspectives. One is a communication tool, and obviously, you list all the activities and, it's incredible the number of things that you accomplish with the staff that you have and so forth. But another perspective is as a management tool, and as you kind of compile information and data and so forth, was there any kind of aha moment saying, well, oh, I didn't realize this, or, well, maybe because like to the vice chair's just suggestion, well, we got, sometimes we got some parking issues, and so maybe we should be doing something differently, carpooling, whatever. Did you have any of those kind of thoughts that kind of, that came out of this process, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, certainly just the list of programs, I think every year, events is what we're primarily doing, right, on the program side. But I think every year when we look at the list, we go, oh my gosh, this is a lot, right? And in addition, we're doing the rentals and staffing this building. So there's that piece. And then, we don't have a lot of staff, especially kind of comparing to where we were pre-pandemic. And so I think we always feel really accomplished going, okay, we did all of this and all the rentals and the revenue with a pretty lean staff. And, the renters are really happy. We get a lot of really positive feedback. And then that 70% cost recovery is pretty, I don't want to say this for certain, but I'm not sure that a lot of other cities are reaching a 70% cost recovery. And I think that was a really big, number for me to go, whoa. And Ryan too, right? He looked at that and went, oh my gosh, you guys, this is really great. It's, beyond what was budgeted, and we think we'll probably be close in 2025 to that, or very close to what was budgeted for that. So there's a lot of like moving parts with a small staff that I think when we go through this, we're like, oh my gosh, we've really done a lot this year, but hey, we can't look at that too much. We got to get, going on this year. But I think we're always trying to make changes and staffing changes to, accommodate the community need and certainly this facilities need. That Sundays are a great example. We get to have Friendship Circle here every other week, and that is such a great program that we want to partner with. So we make sure we can make that work with our staffing schedule.
Okay.
I don't
thank
know
you.
that I answered your question, but
Yeah,
I rambled a
appreciate
lot.
All right. Any other? Oh, Commissioner,
Yeah, so,
hey.
one comment, one question. So my comment is that this is really phenomenal. And we see a lot of increases in so many different areas, especially the drop-in sports and the fitness center. I think that speaks to the number of programs that have been offered that the community is showing that they're really interested in. So thank you. I wanted to follow up on the summer camps because I recall last year that was one area where we saw a little decrease.
Mhm.
Kind of a pretty steady increase from 2022 to 2023, and then it kind of dropped down for some reason in 2024. Do we have any idea how it's shaping up for this summer? Because it's right around the corner, and if those adjustments that were made have kind of come in right where we want it to be?
Yeah. So first, I think that our budget was right sized to what summer camps realistically can bring in. So I feel better about the number that we're supposed to bring in accordance to how many camps we can run. So that's a positive, I think, moving forward. And we are seeing really good numbers already. Our recreation specialist is working really closely with our contracted camps. And he's been in contact with them at least 3 times since February and getting numbers of like, where are you now? Where are you now? We're seeing really, really good numbers. Lego, for example, every week has kids registered, and that was one that kind of dipped last year. So we're really feeling positive. And I think we're at a spot where we have a good, quality over quantity. Last year, I think we had 13 organizations, and not all of those camps were successful with registration numbers. This year, we have 10 organizations that are showing strong numbers and really working closely with us. So I'm very positive, and I hope this time next year we're saying the same thing when we bring you our annual report. But yeah, so far so good.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Commissioner Markson.
Sorry, I have one more question. I can't believe, I think this was a year ago when we got, well, it obviously was a year ago when we got the last recreation annual report. And I remember asking, and maybe Jody also mentioned this, like, is there a parks annual report? And like one thing that I'm thinking about is in the pros plan, for example, the number one thing was the trails around Mercer Island. And so like hearing about what sort of investments we've made to the parks would be a nice, I'd like to hear about that. So.
Yeah, I think, and I do think we said this last year of like, that is a wonderful idea. The parks team does run separate from us, but we work, of course, very closely with them. So we will get with the parks manager and see if he can provide something for 2025. Because I think it is important to show, as we're showing even athletic field bookings, of course, the parks maintenance team plays a huge role in that, right? They're prepping the fields, they're mowing, they're, working every day with Jeremy to see what's on the field and what's coming up on the schedule. So we will definitely try and do that for 25.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, and just like, it's probably, I'm guessing, simply because of the amount of maintenance that's needed for things like trails,
Mhm.
that it actually doesn't take a lot of their time overall. But given how important it was to residents, it'd be good to know more about that. So thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen has his hand up.
Yes, Rory, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Pioneer Park has an annual report that has that kind of information in it for areas cleared of invasives, trail work, costs, and things like that. If you consider that Pioneer Park is whatever percentage it is of our trails, that information to that extent is already compiled, and maybe, Sarah, that would be useful as a, as a contextual to get a sense of what it is, because I think I saw that. I think that didn't that just come out recently for Pioneer Park? I think it looked like their meeting was bumped, but I think it just came out. So that's that's one thing that might be useful.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Thanks. On that vein, I also made me think about the bike skills area, and it would be nice to have an update about that as well. Thanks.
Perhaps we could get an update before our next year report, though. I'll write that down to see if maybe we could get an update in our next meeting.
Thank you. Don, do you still have your hand up? You're on mute now.
I did not, but I'll make a comment. I have had questions from a couple of people who live around the bike skills area about what information there is about usage and about the bike skills area and the work that Sarah was doing to gauge use of trails in Island Crest Park.
Okay. I think we'll call that one a wrap. So
Thank you.
thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Katie, for that, for the annual report. So our last item of business tonight is absences and commissioner reports. Commissioners, do you have anything to report, including planned absences? Vice Chair Burstein.
So I agonized over a decision and notified my fellow commissioners and city staff that I decided not to request an extension for another term. It's been an amazing experience working with all of you. It's gotten me involved in things I never thought I'd be involved in. Amazingly rewarding. And looking back at what we have collectively accomplished over the last 4 years, it's an impressive list. So I fully appreciate working with each of you and city staff and the city council. And I encourage anybody interested in high users of the park and recreation facilities, get on the commission. It's amazingly rewarding. Thank you, everyone. And it doesn't end here. It will go on because I'm not going anywhere. And I still have a voice.
All right.
Thank you, Paul, for your service. We'll look for you on the pickleball court.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Cohen.
Two things. Same thing that Rory just said about Paul. Paul and I have not always agreed on everything, but he's, I think, listened to me better than I listened to him, and so I'll give him that credit. On an unrelated point, I think I've said this before. I will, in all likelihood, not be at the next meeting because my grandsons who moved back east are having their bar mitzvahs here, and the family arrives that evening. So I'll watch the video after the meeting sometime.
Thank you. Commissioner Westberg.
And likewise, I will not be at the next meeting. I will be watching the waves crash on the Cornwall coast in the United Kingdom, so.
Commissioner Hay.
So I will miss the July meeting, but I will be here for the next meeting. And I want to thank Paul. It's been a pleasure to work alongside you. And I hope we do see you on the pickleball court. Thank you.
All right. And as well, Paul, it's been a pleasure working with you, getting to know you. And I'm sure you'll be making sure that just like Commissioner Cohen is kind of the resident fishing expert on the commission and the community, I expect we'll be hearing from you on pickleball as well. So thank you very much for all your service. And with that, I just have
That's fishing, not catching expert, by the way, in my situation.
It's the journey, right? Okay, just a reminder that KCLS will be here at the June meeting. And so, as was mentioned in the director's report, if you have any questions that you'd like them to address, please send any questions into Raven and Ryan by May 12th, and then they will forward them on to the KCLS staff, and hopefully they'll have a chance then to answer those things. The next Park and Recreation Commission meeting is a regular meeting on June 5th, 2025 at 5 p.m. The time is now 6:28 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder to commissioners, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and thank you again for joining us this evening.